Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of Jig Retrospective, an in-depth look at video games of the past. This episode will be covering 3 games based on the fantastic 1989 movie Batman. Batman 1989 was a huge deal when I was young. It was one of the first serious, dark and moody comic book genre films. Directed by Tim Burton, hot off the heels of Beetlejuice, it starred Michael Keaton in the title role, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale, and the iconic Jack Nicholson as Batman's #1 nemesis, the Joker. I was too young to appreciate this movie at the cinema as it was rated 15, which nowadays is very uncommon for comic book movies to aim itself at an older audience. As a product of its time, this didn't stop toy, merchandise, advertising and video games to be directed at a younger audience regardless. When it was time for the movie to become available to rent, then I watched it and I loved it. Let's start by talking about the OG Game Boy version of Batman. Back when I had this game on the original brick Game Boy, I enjoyed the hell out of it and spent a lot of time with it. While capturing footage for this game, I found it overall quite a frustrating game. It's simple enough. You are Batman. I'm Batman. And you make your way through the levels shooting dudes and robots while platforming and breaking blocks, which at times require strategy to create platforms, remove them as obstacles, or with the darker boxes open up goodies. This all works relatively well, but as with going back and playing most old Game Boy games, the controls feel on the whole pretty sluggish, and when platforming this can make for many unfair and frustrating deaths. While capturing footage, I must admit I could not stomach this game for longer than about an hour, and besides, I wanted to get on and play one of my favourite games. As with all 3 of these games, Batman on the NES was developed by Sunsoft, and on the whole they could do little wrong during their late 80s and early 90s run of games. Classics such as Blaster Master, Fantasy Zone and this game, which is absolutely stellar. I feel that if it hadn't been for licensing, then it definitely deserved a spot on the NES Mini. While capturing footage for this game, I realised that it would be quite a task for me to capture the whole game, and it wasn't really my aim, but this game is so addictive, no matter how hard it kicks your ass, you want to come back for more. Although there is nothing particularly frustrating or unfair about this game, if you die, then it's because you have made a mistake. With that said, it can make you want to throw your NES controller like a batarang at your TV. The last level especially hates people. But like I said, it is so addictive and the buzz from finishing it is worth it all. The controls are simple, one for attack, one for jump and another to change your weapon. There are 4 attack or weapons in the game: Batman's punch, a batarang, a spear gun and a dirk, which damages opponents across a good portion of the screen but takes away more of your ammo. I feel like the weapons are well balanced in the game and you are required to use all of them at different times to avoid a lot of damage from enemies. For the most part, fists and batarangs will see you perfectly through most of the game. The platforming has a lot to it as well. A tap of the jump button will allow you to jump across a small gap without hitting energy zapping obstacles from above, whereas a long press on the jump will give you more height and distance. The main feature to the platforming is a Ninja Gaiden style wall jump, which is easy to pick up but you will be forced to absolutely master to complete the game, especially in that dreaded last level. The graphics are as good as to be expected on the original NES, satisfyingly dark and gloomy with some very impressive cutscenes for the time between each level. Apart from the cutscenes and the fact that you are Batman and the end boss is the Joker, then this would probably not be considered a movie tie-in game, but if that's what it takes to put out a quality title such as this, then so be it. The music is really great as well, fantastic tunes all round. If I were to pick one of these games to play, it would be this one. Let's not forget about what the trusty old Megadrive had to offer. This version of the game does its best to be a lot closer to the movie. It's all here. Dropping Jack Napier into a vat of green goo, rescuing Vicky Vale from the art museum, and making your way up the cathedral in order to dump Joker off the top. There are even 2 shooter style levels where you control the Batmobile and the Batwing. Again, cutscenes are great and the music is top notch. I cannot choose the best music between the NES and the Megadrive version, both fit the games to perfection. With that said, there are a few unfair deaths and moments in this game which feel rather cheap, especially when you find yourself falling into a bottomless pit. This instantly takes a whole life away. Apart from that, this is also a great game. B is your punch button or a slightly longer range kick if you're crouched. A is batarang, but these are in limited supply and I found that on the whole these were best saved for the bosses. C is jump and pressing C twice will do a double jump. There is also a grappling hook mechanic, which is great fun to use and gives you the 1989 Batman feel as it is used a lot in the movie. While capturing footage for this game, I realised that if landed correctly you can jump on enemies' heads, and when mastered it can become particularly useful for certain situations. As mentioned before, the shooter sections are fantastic and really mix up the gameplay well. The music in these stages is standout. There are so many Batman video games which vary a lot in quality, but these games based on the 1989 movie, especially the NES and Megadrive versions, are some of the best. I'm happy to have them in my collection and I hope you have enjoyed my content. Feel free to like, share and subscribe and get your geek on with Jig Retro.